educational program with Cancer Support Community Los Angeles. I am Edlyn Rodarte, and I am the Virtual Program Associate at UCLA. I welcome you to this week's webinar titled Optimizing Nutrition for Cancer Patients in Remission. Today, we are joined by Dr. Anita Bajpai, a board-certified internalist and clinical nutritionist, to discuss the main points for nutritional intake to promote health and maintain remission. Before we begin, if this is your first time joining us, Cancer Support Community Los Angeles is a premier nonprofit organization providing vital, social, and emotional support to families facing cancer, including patients, caregivers, and their loved ones, all at no cost. Our programs include support groups, healthy lifestyle classes, social activities, and educational programs such as this one. If you would like to learn more about services or past webinars, please visit our website at www.cancersupportla.org. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome today's speaker, Dr. Anita Bajpai, specializes in prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of diseases that affect adults in residency. In residency training at UCLA, she cared for patients with many rare and complicated diseases, enabling her to have a broad range of clinical experience. Dr. Bajpai received her doctorate from the David Geffen School of Medicine at UCLA and completed a post-doctoral fellowship in clinical nutrition, passing the National Board of Physician Nutrition Specialists exam in 2004. She has been a diplomate of the American Board of Internal Medicine since 2003. Welcome, Dr. Bajpai. We're so honored to be hosting you today.
Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, so the floor is all yours whenever.
Thank you. Just disclosures, I have no financial disclosures. I wish I did. I'm happy to talk to you today on this topic, which I find very interesting and important. And I think that optimal nutrition should help you prevent recurrence of cancer, maintain a healthy immune system, feel energetic enough to thrive in life, and support good mental health. So these goals are all interconnected, and the dietary recommendations that I'm going to give you will help to achieve all of these goals. So the big question I have from my patients is, what should I be eating? And can we eat foods to help prevent cancer? Can we avoid foods that are going to cause cancer? And what does the scientific research say about this? Is food really that important? So for preventing cancer and recurrence of cancer, there's the best data, and this is from multiple sources, including the American Cancer Society. The best data on cancer prevention, number one, is don't smoke. So I had to bring that up, even though I'm talking about food, because smoking is the most important preventable cause of cancer in the world. But the number 2 and 3 were achieving and maintaining a healthy body weight, because overweight and obesity are associated with increased cancer risk, and eating a healthy and balanced diet. So food matters. The International Agency for Research on Cancer, the IARC, which is a division of the World Health Organization, also has a topic on food, and that these are interventions that have sufficient evidence. So they really are looking at all the trials, data, scientific information that provides sufficient evidence on cancer preventive effect. And that would be the dietary one here is absence of body fatness. And are there things that we can avoid eating that might cause cancer? So there are 2 things these are substances, again, from the IARC, where there's sufficient evidence to establish a causal relationship in humans. And showing up on this is alcoholic beverages and processed meats. So these are identified clearly as a hazard, so that these substances in those 2 types of foods are carcinogenic, but they don't give us any information on risk assessment. So it's a hazard, but how much exposure is going to increase your cancer risk by how much? They don't tell us. So both of these organizations, plus a lot of other ones, really stress maintaining a healthy body weight. So weight loss and weight maintenance, something I could talk to you about everything on this slide for a whole talk, but the main thing that, because weight loss and weight maintenance not only involves diet or food, but also physical activity, your energy metabolism, sleep, stress, mental health, medical issues, medications, and much more. So the whole picture of achieving and maintaining healthy body weight, which is so important, involves a lot more than food, but we're going to talk about food today. So here let's try to get a little more specific information. This is from one of our classic nutrition textbooks, Essentials of Human Nutrition, and they have a little bit more specific dietary recommendations. Again, we're seeing maintaining a normal body weight and limiting alcoholic beverages and processed meats, salt, and then eating a high fiber diet, including whole grains, and eating adequate amounts of fruits and vegetables. And we see these recommendations in lots of different sites. So this is something that most people will have heard from a dietitian if you see them, or if they're getting recommendations. But these recommendations are quite vague. So patients come to me and they're like, what is the healthy balanced diet? How many fruits and vegetables should I be eating? Which one should I be eating? What's fiber? How much fiber? What plants, what's this plant-based diet? Are potatoes and pasta plant-based? What about red meat? Which meats are we really talking about? Can I drink any alcohol? So these are questions I hear from my patients all the time. And so the main point is, the good news is that food really matters. So the foods that you eat certainly can influence your overall health and your weight and your body composition. And your food choices can definitely contribute to reducing your risk of cancer development and recurrence. And the other thing, which I feel is so important, is that each of us individuals have power and influence over this, because eating is something that we do every day. So each and every day you have an opportunity to take care of yourself, to nourish your body, and play an active role in your body's healing process. But the challenge is figuring out what is a healthy diet, choosing this wide variety of foods that are going to enable you to take in all the nutrients you need for health, and consuming this food in an amount that matches your requirements. It's not excessive and not inadequate. And these are all the things that you need to be eating. So these are from our nutrition textbook, essential nutrients, our macronutrients. People have heard a lot about these: carbohydrates, fats, proteins. Our micronutrients, our minerals, our major minerals: calcium, magnesium, iron; our trace elements: zinc, copper, iodine, selenium, fluoride, chromium, manganese, and molybdenum. And then our vitamins, the fat soluble ones, A, D, E, and K; our water soluble ones, vitamin C, B vitamins, and water. But the thing is that we don't eat nutrients. We're not going to the pantry and saying, oh, I'm going to have a little bit of carbohydrate with a little sprinkle some copper on there and some vitamin D. We eat foods and we eat meals that are prepared with different recipes. So all this information can be very overwhelming. And how do we even decide what we're going to eat? So food choices and meal preparation are influenced by a lot of different things: culture and society, family and tradition, cost and availability, farming and animal husbandry techniques, and advice from all over the place: medical professionals, friends, relatives, internet. There's information overload. So what I want to do today is share with you the nutrition advice that I give to my patients and that I try to follow myself and inflict upon my family. And I just want to let you know, these are summary points. So there's going to be about 12 slides on these nutrition advice points. And each slide could be its own talk, because each of these points is based on a lot of data, information, and knowledge and understanding within the framework of science and medical education and experience that I have. So just to let you know that we're sort of getting just the tip of the iceberg, but here it is. I want to start out with telling you, this is what I tell my patients when they come to see me. So increase your vegetable intake. Daily goal: 3 to 4 cups of vegetables. Choose a variety of colors. Try to eat 1 cup of cruciferous vegetables a day. These examples of these are broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, bok choy, kale, and arugula. Every day, try to eat 2 to 4 cups of dark leafy greens, such as spinach, kale, lettuce, collard greens. And the other vegetables should come from a variety of colors, and try to get them, if you can, in season and locally grown, but doesn't have to be. Eat more fruit. So 3 servings are about 2 cups a day. Choose fruits with lots of different colors. Again, variety is good. Try to eat a cup of berries a day and 1 apple. Get in the habit of eating fruit after dinner as your dessert. Nuts and seeds. These are powerhouse of Healthy fats and vitamins, eat 1 ounce of seeds and 1 ounce of nuts a day. Good choices for nuts, walnuts, pecans, hazelnuts, and almonds. Good choices for seeds, chia, flax, pumpkin, sunflower, and sesame. One tip is to add chia or flax to your breakfast. If you're having oatmeal or a muesli or some other cereal or salad, sprinkle seeds and nuts on top or just as a snack on their own. Try to avoid, for seeds especially, you want to, nuts and seeds, you really want to look at the sodium content. So you want to try to get dry roasted unsalted or raw unsalted, so you're not getting in way too much salt with these. So fiber, 30 grams a day. Most people in the United States do not get enough fiber intake. This is so important. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but that's really our goal number. The range really 25 to 35 grams. That's recommended that you take in 14 grams of fiber for every 1,000 calories of food. So where do you get this fiber? Whole grains, vegetables, fruits. Here's some especially good choices. Are artichokes, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, raspberries, apples, pears, beans. Powerhouse for fiber. Half a cup of cooked beans has 15 grams of fiber, so you're getting half your fiber intake in just that one food group. Oats and chia seeds. One point that I always make is add fiber to your diet slowly, because if you're not eating and you start eating 30 grams, you can have some abdominal discomfort, bloating, and constipation. So you want to increase this slowly. Choose healthy fats. So lipids, fats, saturated, unsaturated, omega-3, omega-6. We could have a whole talk about this. But what I want to focus on, and that's what I've been highlighting in these slides, is I want you to focus on what you need to be getting in every day. Focus your energy on eating those foods. And then the rest of the stuff is the rest. But focus, get every day in the good stuff. So olives and olive oil, lots of great health benefits of olive oil, but which olive oil to choose? So this cold pressed extra virgin olive oil, this relates to the processing, how they get the oil from the olives. And the cold pressed method is the one that preserves most of the nutrients. And in fact, a lot of the beneficial effects of olive oil are when it's consumed in the raw form. So just drizzle it over your salad or veggies. And the point I really want to make is I think it's super valuable to be able to make your own salad dressing. It's very easy. You can find lots of recipes on the internet, but commercially available salad dressings typically do not have olive oil as the oil. They have soybean oil, they have canola oil, they have safflower oil, other oils that are not as healthy. So if you want to have salad dressings, it improves the taste and the oils improve the ability to absorb fat-soluble vitamins, but just make it yourself. Nuts and seeds packed with vitamins and healthy fat. And then what to cook, there's all sorts of information on smoke points and which oils, some healthy choices are extra virgin olive oil, avocado, ghee, which is clarified butter, coconut oil, or sesame oil. So herbs and spices, try to get as many herbs and spices as you can into your daily life, into the recipes and foods that you eat. These are going to add a lot of flavor, which helps with increasing vegetable consumption. Many of these have medicinal properties, and some ways. Here's some common herbs that are easy to add: oregano, parsley, thyme, rosemary. Mixed herbs, you can buy dried mixed herbs de Provence or Italian herbs, and we're going to get a little bit of dose of some of these plants. And spices, I'm sure a lot of you have read about ginger or turmeric, curcumin, and the spices again also have a lot of micronutrients and phytonutrients. And so just be aware of trying to incorporate these into your diet and into the recipes that you are using. Fluids, water, and other beverages. So drink water. Adequate hydration is really important for normal body function, for helping with fatigue, for avoiding constipation, lots of health issues that we need adequate hydration. So patients are always asking me, well, how much should I drink? Is really the eight cups? And what do I, and so so there's two points and tips that I give them. One is, if you take your body weight in pounds and divide it by half, that's the number of ounces of water that you should drink in a day. Of course, if it's hot, if you're sweating, you're going to need more water. And our urine is really a great indicator of our hydration status. So if your urine is clear, very light yellow, you're well hydrated. If it's dark, you're not. Drink more water. And I want to talk a bit about water quality. People ask me about which water should they be drinking. And one point is that in the United States and in California especially, we have excellent drinking water quality standards compared to the rest of the world. So you can drink tap water in here and not get sick, whereas in India or places in Mexico or other places in the world, that's not the case. So our tap water is safe. There probably are some contaminants and things in there. So I do recommend filtering your tap water. You can get a carbon filter online from Amazon or a lot of other places, and put and carry your own glass or stainless steel reusable water bottle with you. I do recommend avoiding plastic water bottle for environmental reasons, and also to reduce any microplastic exposure. Herbal teas, this is a great way to get in some extra fluids and nutrients. I've loved recommending ginger lemon tea, especially for nausea. Or chamomile tea, that's especially calming. There's some teas that are really that can help with sleep. So green tea is good, but it has caffeine a lot of the times unless it's decaffeinated, so more in the morning. And coffee and caffeinated tea are definitely healthy in moderation. And avoid sugar sweetened beverages. So a little bit on things to avoid. So really, in terms of sugar and sweeteners, get out all the artificial sweeteners. And that's a very, the point that I really stress with people. I would much rather you be eating sugar than one of these artificial sweeteners. And then try to reduce the amount of sugar that you're eating. Look to the goal of 25 grams of added sugar daily. And when I talk to people there about sugar, one point that I really like to bring up is that our taste buds are able to adjust their sensitivity to sugar. We're renewing our taste buds every couple of weeks. And so you can gradually reduce the amount of sugar that you're adding onto your, let's say, your tea or your coffee. And it will start tasting sweeter or just as sweet as your taste buds adjust. So it's a really important point. And our taste buds can adjust to fat and to salt as well. So you can reduce some of the salt in your diet as well gradually, and your taste buds will become more sensitive. So if you are adding a sweetener, I like to recommend raw honey. Humans have been eating honey for a long time. The raw honey may have some probiotics in it as well. Eliminate sugar sweetened beverages. And so or add your own sugar to tea, coffee, lemonade, so that you know how much sweetener is in there. And then really check the food labels. Now we can see how much sugar and added sugar by reading the nutrition labels. Foods with lots of added sugars, especially breakfast cereals, yogurt, condiments, ketchup, beverages, and then they're hidden sugars in pasta sauces or bread. So you're trying to choose a whole grain, good, healthy bread, and a lot of them are packed with sugar. So it's something important to check out on the nutrition label. Alcohol, like we've talked about before, was identified as a hazard, but a safe amount is unknown. There's really not a consensus. There might be some health benefits from certain alcohols, the resveratrol in red wine, and the heart health benefits. Common recommendations limits to keep in mind. Normally, we recommend a maximum of 1 drink per day for women, 2 drinks per day for men. Avoid binge drinking. For cancer patients, I've seen recommendations of limiting to a maximum of 4 drinks per week or none. So, you're going to have to choose how this fits in with your life. But limiting alcohol can also help with weight management and with sleep. So food quality is really important, because the quality of the food you eat is going to have an influence on your health in terms of nutrients and toxin exposure. So this is a word on organic food production. What is organic food production? So this is a system that avoids the use of synthetic chemicals, so pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, fertilizers, growth regulators, livestock feed additives, and genetically modified organisms. So especially for cancer patients, I recommend organic food because we don't want to get any of these extra synthetic chemicals. For plants, mostly organic. You don't have to, a lot of times that they can be more expensive. Costco is a great place that you can find some. You can be a smart shopper about getting organic foods for a reasonable price. But I just want to alert you to one resource, which is the Environmental Working Group, which puts out a lot of great information on food quality and especially on the pesticides in fruits and vegetables, and they have a list of the dirty dozen, which you definitely should buy organic, and the clean 15, which is fine to buy conventional. So I would encourage you to check out that website for more information. And then the other issue is animal products. So meat, and this gets back to red meat, wet meat, chicken, fish, eggs, dairy. And I think the most important point that I tell people to focus on is the quality. So for these products, buy organic and pasture raised, because other labels like cage-free, natural, no antibiotics are not that meaningful. Because whatever the animal was eating, if you're eating it, you're eating whatever they were eating. So we're trying to reduce the chemical burden. I know these foods are often more expensive, but I feel it's worth the investment, and just eat less of them and increase your intake of vegetables. Vegetables are usually much less expensive. And then the other thing to really focus on with the food label, like I was telling you, to read the ingredient labels, because we're trying to avoid unnecessary chemicals. And these are often added in processed foods as colors, flavors, emulsifiers, and preservatives. So keep an eye on that. And really know what you're eating. So the easiest way, obviously, is to prepare all your own food, grow and prepare all your own food. But and in the modern world, this isn't always easy, but try to make that more of a priority. And read, like I said, read the ingredient list, read the nutrition labels, and think about what are you eating along with your food. And look into where and how your food is made. Another good resource is the Cornucopia Institute. They do some scorecards on organic animal products. And okay, so this food timing and fasting, I mean, this could be a whole talk, but it's very important in terms of how we metabolize our food when you're eating. And it's very important for our bodies to have a period of time when we're fasting, as opposed to time when we're in the fed state, because metabolically fed and fasting have completely different signaling and metabolic pathways. So the recommendations that I give for patients are try to limit your eating time that you're eating in the day to 12 hours and have 12 hours of fasting. Typically you're doing your eating when it's light outside, and you're not eating when you're asleep and when it's dark outside. There's been some studies showing that we process our glucose better during the daytime, earlier in the day, and that same glucose is not processed as well late at night. Consume more than half of your calories before 7 p.m. There's lots of weight loss literature showing that the same amount of calories eating before 7 p.m. causes less weight gain than if you consume those same number of calories after 7 p.m. And then try to go to sleep 2 to 3 hours after finishing dinner. Again, sleep, nighttime, fasting, that pathway, daytime eating. And remember, time restricted eating, this is a form of fasting, which has benefits for longevity and cancer prevention. So those are that was hopefully not too quick bullets of my recommendations. And so what I want to spend the rest of the time talking about is where a little bit more information on what's the basis for these. So I'm going to talk to you about four topics, and I wish I could talk to you about a lot more, but phytochemicals, which are chemicals made by plants, so not the nutrients, but these are other chemicals in the plants. Fiber, because this comes up a lot, eating high fiber diet. The gut microbiome, lots of questions I get about this and this whole food immune system connection. Very briefly, I'll bring that up. So a plant-based diet, we hear a lot about this. So humans have been eating plants for thousands of years, and through trial and error figured out which plants are edible and which parts of the plants are edible. And we actually eat all different parts of plants, the fruits, the seeds, flowers, leaves, stems, roots, tubers, and bulbs. So plants alone can provide all our essential nutrients, except for maybe B12. But the plants, they've got it. And besides our macronutrients and our micronutrients and our vitamins and minerals, when we eat plants, we're also eating lots of what we call phytochemicals. So they're the other chemicals that are in the structure and the function of the plant. At least 5,000 of these have been described. There's likely many more than that. And these compounds function for plants to defend against oxidative stress. So they're pigments that absorb light. That's what gives the color to the different fruits and vegetables. And these phytonutrients help plants defend against destructive insects and microorganisms, and they function as growth regulators in the plants and a lot of other functions. But when we eat plants, these phytochemicals are actually very active in our bodies. So research has shown that these phytochemicals are able to modulate our immune system, can reduce inflammation, can prevent DNA damage, help with DNA repair, can reduce cell damage, can slow cancer growth, can regulate our hormones, and can even neutralize some toxins and help and stop them from becoming carcinogens. So I think this is super exciting because plants are doing so many great things for us. We just have to eat them. So which plants should you eat? And there's a rainbow, the color, lots of different ones. And the ones that I talked to you about earlier in the talk. Choose different colors and be eating different parts of the plants. And the color, like I said, is an indicator of the different type of phytochemicals. So using color is a great proxy for getting in a diversity of phytonutrients. So the red, lycopene is in the reds, vitamin C flavonoids are in the yellows, beta carotene in the oranges, indoles and lutein in the greens, with the allyl sulfates, anthocyanins in the blues, resveratrol in the purples. And then we want to get in a variety of plant parts. So the fruits of plants that we eat are the typical fruits that you think of. And then also legumes, nuts, and grains are part of the fruiting body of plants. Seeds, like we talked about, flower buds, cauliflower, broccoli, the leaves of plants, stems, and the rhizomes. A lot of our ginger and turmeric are rhizomes. And just to think about that, the function of the plant part is going to affect its nutrient composition. So for example, the leaves do photosynthesis. Chlorophyll is a compound in the plant leaf that is essential for photosynthesis, and it contains magnesium. Well, magnesium in humans, it's a cofactor in more than 300 enzymes that are doing all sorts of important work in our body and our metabolic processes. So we need that magnesium, and the plant leaves got it. Tubers are plant storage organs. So the potatoes and yams, we're going to have a lot of starch because that's the storage energy for the plants. And so again, the color of the plant can be used as an indicator of the phytonutrients. And I just put this slide to let you know, like, there are lots of different phytonutrients out there, and there's already a lot of evidence and information on how these, which plants they're in and what they do. So phytonutrients are classified by their chemical structure. So the main groups here: carotenoids, phytosterols, saponins, glucosinolates, polyphenols, protease inhibitors, monoterpenes, phytoestrogens, and sulfides. And they have a variety of effects in our body. They can be anti-carcinogenic, antimicrobial, antioxidants, antithrombotic, immunomodulatory, anti-inflammatory, cholesterol lowering, and affect our blood sugar. And I want to point out that they're almost all of them can help with be anti-carcinogenic. So how does that work? So our body has ways to protect against cancer damage and mutation, and these phytochemicals and the nutrients in our diet are going to help support our body for these processes. So detoxification, normal DNA production and cell growth, DNA repair, apoptosis, which is programmed cell death, and immunosurveillance. So just quick, so when you have a normal cell that's gonna, when it accumulates, it's just in its normal processes of growth, the DNA can be damaged, leading to a mutated cell. But like I said, how can we prevent DNA? How can we prevent that DNA damage? So number one is any chemical carcinogen that's coming could be detoxified. Or if there is some DNA damage, our body can repair it. And we've got enzymes in our cells that are going to repair it. Once a mutated cell, a mutation happens in a cell, the cell can notice that it's defective and activate apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. So cells are designed to remove, to basically shut down if they are abnormal, or these cells can put a flag on the outside that the immune system can recognize, and the immune system will destroy these cells. And so plants and nutrients can help with that, support those processes, and prevent this mutated cell from eventually becoming a cancer cell. So just there's some of this has been identified already. So for normal function, for nucleotide synthesis, so the building blocks of our DNA, and for when our DNA is replicating, when our cells are dividing and making new cells, we definitely need folate, B12, magnesium, zinc, and iron. For DNA stability, so when the DNA is being used and methylated, and for our chromosomes to be stable, we need folate and B12. To prevent DNA oxidation and DNA damage, we need vitamin C, vitamin E, zinc, manganese, and selenium. For DNA damage sensing and repair, we need niacin, zinc, iron, and magnesium. And then also nutrients themselves can serve as factors that regulate our DNA transcription, they can be substrates and cofactors for our enzymes that detoxify or metabolize chemicals from the foods we ingest. And nutrients can also be signaling molecules. And phytochemicals can do all these things. So there are cancer blocking agents in these plants, cancer suppressing agents, and detoxification, that the enzymes that we have to metabolize phytonutrients can also detoxify synthetic chemicals. So based on all this information, you should be at least eating 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, but I tell you 10. So I wanted to go over a specific example just because there's so much complexity and there is so much information, but I think this is just one example to highlight this. So some of our enzymes that are involved in DNA synthesis and repair contain cysteine-rich motifs that bind iron sulfate clusters in their catalytic or active site. So if you have a defect in this iron sulfate cluster formation and the insertion into the enzyme, this can lead to DNA damage and genomic instability. So these are processes that are involved in cancer, right? DNA synthesis, DNA repair, DNA damage, genomic stability. So we need sulfur and iron to form this sulfur iron complex. So where are we going to get the sulfur? I'm just going to talk about the sulfur. So it's eaten in food and proteins. So there are 2 proteins, 2 amino acids, the building blocks of proteins that supply sulfur, methionine. Some sources are nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, eggs, chicken, fish, turkey, and beef, and cysteine. And sources of cysteine are garbanzo beans, lentils, oats, walnuts, eggs, and turkey. But besides just the protein sources of sulfur, plants provide in the phytochemicals a whole bunch of other sources of sulfur. So the allium vegetables, which are onion, garlic, shallot, leek, and scallion, provide sulfides, thiosulfates, and sulfoxides. And cruciferous vegetables, remember our broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, they have a lot of glucosinolates, and one of these is sulforaphane, which probably many of you have heard of. Whole grains are another source of sulfur because the vitamin B12 thiamine in them has sulfur. Leafy greens as well, biotin has sulfur. So sulforaphane itself is bioactive, which is super exciting. So not only are these plants providing us with some of our macronutrients and our micronutrients, they're also providing us these phytochemicals that are biologically active. This is the structure of sulforaphane, again, from the cruciferous vegetables. And here's some information about sulforaphane from MD Anderson Cancer Center, saying research shows it neutralizes toxins, this chemical itself. It reduces inflammation. It may protect your DNA by blocking mutations. It may slow tumor growth. And the great news, readily available. All you have to do is steam veggies or eat them raw, and you're ready to go. So moving on from phytonutrients, I'm going to talk a little bit more about, I'm sorry, something is technology disruption. So carbohydrates, a misunderstood macronutrient. So this is going to relate to fiber and our microbiome. So what are carbohydrates anyway? This could be a whole talk, but carbohydrates are organic molecules synthesized by plants from water and carbon dioxide using the sun's energy. And they have a general formula of carbon, 2 hydrogens, and an oxygen. And the simplest form of carbohydrate is C6H12O6, which is glucose, right? Our simple sugar. So this is a single sugar. And carbohydrates are named and categorized by the number of different sugars that are linked together. So 1 sugar monosaccharide, 2 sugars polysaccharide, 3 to 9 is an oligosaccharide, and more than 10 is a polysaccharide. So here we go. Here's our classes of sugars. And the simple sugars, so the 1 to 2 sugars linked together, these are well-known characters or actors: glucose, fructose, galactose, sucrose, lactose, maltose. And the oligosaccharides are grouped into 2 groups: the alpha glucans and then the non-alpha glucan oligosaccharides. So maltodextrins, and then a whole bunch of other ones. And then starch into alpha glucans, the polysaccharide starch, alpha glucans, and non-starch polysaccharides. So what's going on with all this? So the main point I want to bring up to you here is in green are all the carbohydrates that our body can actually digest, because our enzymes that digest carbohydrates can only digest ones with an alpha glucan bond. So these are the only ones that are small, in our small intestine, we can actually absorb. And the other ones, the non-alpha glucan oligosaccharides and the non-starch polysaccharides, though in those molecules, the sugar molecules are bonded together with a different type of bond, a beta bond, and our enzymes cannot break them down. So those are fiber. So this is what happens when you eat carbohydrates. The breakdown starts in the oral cavity with salivary amylase, and then it goes on through the stomach to the intestine, pancreatic amylase, and these are going to break down the polysaccharides into maltose, which is a 2 sugar unit, and shorter polysaccharides. And then along the lining of the intestine, so your enterocytes, which is those cells that line your small intestine, the brush border of those have enzymes that break down these disaccharides into monosaccharides. And it's really only these monosaccharides, the single sugars, that can be absorbed and they're transported across the enterocyte and into the bloodstream and then onto the liver. And so everything else is not absorbed. That is not absorbed is passed on to the large intestine. So undigested carbohydrate, that's what fiber is. fiber is any carbohydrates that weren't digested in the small intestine and they pass to the large intestine or the colon. And these are also our prebiotics. So when our gut microbiome exists in our colon, and the prebiotics are the food. So the bacteria living in the large intestine are able to use these carbohydrates to feed themselves. And this is why a diet that's high in fiber helps to maintain a population of healthy gut microbes. So what is the gut microbiome? I know we're kind of running a little low on time, so I'm going to try to get through these quick. It's basically a community of microorganisms that live in the GI tract and have co-evolved with humans over thousands of years. The human GI tract contains almost 100 trillion bacteria of over 1,000 different species. And research has shown, and this is a super exciting area, that our gut microbiome are incredibly important to our health, because this is very important for colon cancer especially, but the gut microbiota produce short chain fatty acids like butyrate, which our large intestine cells, our colonocytes, can use as an energy source. And so this is very important for colonic health. The other thing is that these microbiota can help inhibit the growth of other bacteria, so compete out the bad guys, can affect our immune response, can actually synthesize vitamins, especially the B vitamins, can metabolize phytochemicals and drugs, and can work for detoxification. So like we said, the undigested carbohydrates are the food sources for the bacteria living in your gut. And the type of carbohydrate that you eat is and that you provide to the colon is going to determine the species composition of the microbiome community. So the more diverse your food intake, the more plants, different types of plants and the whole grains, the more diverse your gut microbiome, the more diversity you have in these species. They do a lot of different functions, and they're going to have different effects on health. So you don't need to take probiotics to have a healthy gut. You need to eat fiber to have a healthy gut. And some other things that fiber does for us, which are related to obesity, is slowing gastric emptying, making you feel more full. Fiber can help with weight loss, also because of some interaction probably with gut hormones. Fiber increases our stool bulk, decreases the time it takes for stool to pass through your GI tract. So this may minimize the absorption of carcinogens because they're moving through the GI tract more quickly. Fiber also dilutes gut contents, so this might decrease your exposure to carcinogens. And fiber can bind some carcinogens, so they just get excreted. And this comes back to this recommendation that we hear all the time of whole grains. So whole grains are one of the most important sources of carbohydrate for the gut microbiome. And again, these are all the resistant, like we talked about, the undigested polysaccharides or undigested carbohydrates and their food sources. And then whole grains. So whole grains contain the entire grain kernel, including the bran, the germ, and the endosperm. And a lot of what makes the whole grain versus a refined grain is the way that it's processed. But refined grains are milled, and that the outside coating, this bran and the germ, are removed. And that in that process, the fiber, iron, and B vitamins are also removed. So this is some of the foundation for these recommendations of whole grains and avoiding refined or processed carbohydrates. And last big topic, this could be huge, but I really want to just point this out, that your gut and your immune system, the food that you're eating, your whole digestive tract and your immune system are intimately connected. So the human GI tract represents the largest, one of the largest interfaces between the host, environmental factors, and antigens in the human body. Around your gut is what's called gut-associated lymphatic tissue. So the lymphocytes, you can see in the lower picture, They are throughout the lining of your GI tract, and half of your body's lymphocytes are residing in this gut-associated lymphatic tissue. And your mesenteric lymph nodes, so all the lymph nodes that are surrounding the structures of your GI tract in the abdomen, those are the largest gathering of lymph nodes in the body. So we know a healthy immune system is critical for health and cancer prevention, and your food that you eat is really interacting, and your microbiome are really interacting with your immune system. So to summarize, food has a huge impact on health. And you could summarize, I love this quote from Michael Pollan: eat food, mostly plants, not too much. So I want to end with a poem because I think that it's really important to remember that every day you have a chance to make it a good day. So look to this day for its life, the very life of life. In its brief course lie all the verities and realities of your existence, the bliss of growth, the glory of action, the splendor of beauty. For yesterday is but a dream, and tomorrow is only a vision. But today, well lived, makes every yesterday a dream of happiness, and every tomorrow a vision of hope. Look well, therefore, to this day. Such is the salutation of the dawn. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bajpai. That was such a great presentation. So we already have a few questions. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and dive right in. The first one asks, this is related to calcium/vitamin D. I lost a lot of bone density after 1 year, and after 2 months on Fosamax, developed necrosis of the jaw. I hope I said that right. I have chronic low D. How can I get sufficient calcium and vitamin D? Have lately heard that all dairy is bad for hormone-positive breast cancer.
Okay, that's very packed. So vitamin D is really important for the absorption of calcium, but our calcium metabolism so our bones is not just calcium, it's one of the major minerals that's really important, but also magnesium is very important, and also vitamin K. So leafy greens, you can get a lot of calcium from them, but actually really if you're in that case with losing a lot of bone density, sometimes we do have to add supplements. I haven't really talked at all about supplements because they should be supplementing your diet. The diet is the basis. Mm-hmm. So definitely, taking a vitamin D supplement, probably calcium, magnesium, and K supplement. You can just Google calcium rich plant foods. That's a good way to just pick the ones you like. And then the other thing is, in terms of all dairy being bad, this really gets back to the quality of the dairy. So what are the conditions that these cows are in? What are the cows eating? Are they getting hormones? Are they what's in the feed? So this is why organic and pasture raised or grass fed is really important for dairy. And then there's one company that I love. I'm not supposed to talk about any companies, but I actually went to a dairy farm in Fresno and saw where the cows were that are producing the milk that I drink. So I would investigate a little bit more of that for the quality. And then again, for bone density, weight-bearing activity is really important, and also reducing alcohol intake, because that can have a very negative effect on your bones.
Okay. Thank you. And then the other one, heard that turmeric also is bad for hormone-positive breast cancer. Turmeric?
Mm-hmm. So that one I'm not sure about that literature. Is this taking a turmeric supplement? So it's very different if we're talking about turmeric in food versus turmeric in the supplements, because there can be, especially in these spice supplements, how is this plant grown? There can actually be a concentration of pesticides or of other toxins in the supplement. So the supplement industry is not regulated the same way as the pharmaceutical industry. There's some great companies out there, but in terms of turmeric, if you're getting the turmeric root or you're getting some organic turmeric that you're adding to your food, I think that's okay. And I would have to investigate that more and get back to her.
Okay. Any suggestions for which type of zinc to use, especially wondering type because of its possibility to help with COVID? Been trying research this last couple of days.
Yeah, there's there's a lot of it's zinc picolinate is the type of zinc that's recommended, definitely for COVID. Again, I do use a lot of, I do recommend looking all this stuff on the internet. And again, my first suggestion is Google foods that have zinc, because our bodies are, so when we talk about supplements, our bodies are, we've been eating plants for thousands of years. Our bodies know how to get the nutrients out of plants and out of foods. So a lot of these studies where we give patients supplements, they don't end up showing a lot of benefit. So sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. That's a very complicated area of literature, but sometimes, so I definitely say get it in from the foods, and then you can supplement a little bit on top. And so, yeah, that's what I would recommend for that one.
Okay. This one, I think they're just asking more for your thoughts. It says, we get a lot of info that are a lot of phytochemicals that are bad for hormone positive breast cancer, such as turmeric, ginger, biotin, etc.
So, and is this from, does it say for supplements or?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So the other thing that I guess I would emphasize for that is that if you look in the food cultures and food traditions that are using ginger and turmeric, these are in small amounts. They're not in massive amounts. And so when you look at the dose response to a chemical or a drug, there might be a certain dose that's beneficial, and then you move on to the toxic range for that. So I'm not as familiar with the literature of that. I'd be happy to look it up for that person. But my initial thoughts on that is it does depend how much you're doing, and maybe you're overdoing it with those. So, and if, it's okay to avoid certain things. This is a giant area of research and information.
Yeah, definitely. The next one says, I am pre-diabetic with metastatic breast cancer, is not curable, but currently NED, which is basically remission. How much fruit is okay to eat? My A1C is okay. Also, once you already have cancer, is some alcohol okay? Gotta have a life too.
Gotta have a life too. I think that's so important. And also with the alcohol, okay, so like we said, it was identified as a hazard, but how much? So if you're having like a glass of wine or half a glass of wine, or you're having a cocktail with your friends every so often, I think that is providing such a huge social and emotional benefit. And those things help prevent cancer recurrence. Okay, so having good mental health, reducing your stress, these are, that's a whole other area, but so that's very important. So I would try to limit alcohol. I don't think you have to eliminate it. In terms of how much fruit is okay, if you're eating whole fruit, you're getting, and you're eating fruit with meals, that is going to minimize sort of your effect on your blood sugar. But the sugar that's in fruit is predominantly fructose. There is some, glucose in there, but that doesn't have as bad of effect on blood sugar as the sugar that we're adding. So, and you're getting a lot of plants in there. So I would say that my recommendation of having, 1 to 2 cups or 3 servings a day would be fine, as long as it's in combination with a healthy diet, and as long as you're reducing your added sugar. So if you're getting sugar, I think it's great to get it from fruit.
It says, what's better to take in vitamin form, prebiotics or probiotics for healthy GI health?
So I would say probiotics, because the prebiotics you can get from food, but you can take some prebiotics. So the probiotics, there are probiotic foods. So, if you talk about yogurt, kombucha, there's there are examples of probiotic foods. So I think that getting a complement of probiotic foods and like we said, the different kinds of fiber, that's really important. The inulin supplements, I think people often see as a prebiotic, and then the probiotics, those are actually good because sometimes where our gut is not, we don't have it coming in. And so it can boost the boost that community that we have, but you can put those bacteria in there, but you need to feed them. So the probiotics that you're taking is putting the bacteria in them, and then the prebiotics are fiber that's feeding them to maintain a good colony in there.
Perfect. Okay. This one says, should your oncology team include a nutritionist? I was told it was not necessary.
I wish they did. I think that because what everybody, and that's the thing that with my practice, when I talk to my patients, you can give a lot of generic advice, but their personalized nutrition is very important. So it matters, what are you eating? What will you eat? What works with your lifestyle? So I think that in that way, yes, because it's the better that you have a system that works well for you, the more chance that you're going to stick with it. So everybody can eat a very restrictive diet for 2 weeks and lose a lot of weight, but they can't keep it up for 10 years. So when we're making changes in our diet or our lifestyle, we have to start where we are and then gradually try to improve and maintain those changes and make them into good habits.
Yeah. The next question says, best way to gain weight, wife's BMI 17.8.
Ooh, okay. That's tough. So for patients that are trying to gain weight, one of the things is addressing barriers to intake. So sometimes it's taste, sometimes it's the energy of eating. So often like juice smoothies, so blending or soups are easier ways to get in intake. And then looking at nutrient dense foods. So for example, nuts and seeds, you don't have to eat very much to get in a lot of calories and nutrients. So that's a good way to try to, if she just is not wanting to eat, where you don't have to eat as much. The other thing with the liquids is that our bodies don't necessarily sense fluid in the same way that we sense food. So if people don't feel hungry, there are some supplements to take for boosting the appetite. And then, so that would kind of be where I would start.
This one's a comment. Thank you for such a great presentation, Dr. Bajpai.
Oh, thank you.
Let's see. So it says, I keep hearing that the soil is not the same as it used to be. So we are not able to get as much nutrients from food that we used to be able to get. So supplements is important. Do you believe the same?
Okay. Yes. And yes. So I would recommend a multivitamin a few days a week, like maybe 3 days a week. So in terms of the soil, and this gets back to, I could give a whole talk on our organic produce, but when you have organic food production, you have a healthy, alive soil, and there are microorganisms in the soil that are important for helping the plants get the nutrients in. And so one part is that and there is some evidence that organic foods are higher in these nutrients. And also, if you look at organic pasture raised, whether it's chicken or eggs or beef, that those have more of the vitamins and nutrients in them. So the quality of the food is important. But yes, industrial farming practices are predominant. And so the soil quality is, especially like, for example, selenium is something, or chromium, that these micronutrients that we might need to be taking a supplement for.
Got you. So it's looking like we have just a few more minutes for one more question. This one says, I'm a long-term survivor of pediatric brain cancer, and recently my blood test showed I was in the diabetic range. Do you have any specific advice, or will following the guidelines you gave throughout the presentation help?
I think that the guidelines will help, definitely. So fiber, again, is important. So if you look at, I wish I could put up one more slide, but basically when you look at the carbohydrates that we're eating, the ones that have more of the starch and the sugars are going to contribute more to the spikes in your blood sugar and in your insulin. But the ones that have more of the undigested starch that go into the colon, that some of that's absorbed also as nutrients. So I would really focus on getting the healthy carbohydrates, that part of the talk. And then again, so strength training, physical activity. So when you build muscle, your muscle is actually very active in helping with that insulin response. So for diabetics, doing some strength training 30 minutes twice a week can really help with maintaining your muscle mass, and that's going to help with your insulin sensitivity and your diabetes.
One of the things, someone did ask if they can get you would be okay with sending or giving us a copy of the slides?
Sure.
Okay. So
I'd be happy to.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So if everybody watching, if you guys would like information about the slides, just go ahead and let me type it into the chat, but you can send a message. Let me see here. To info@cancersupportla.org. And just send an email there, and then we can go ahead and send you the slides once Dr. Bajpai has sent that to us. Dr. Bajpai, thank you so much. Would you be able to put in your information for everyone in the chat? You can just put it in the chat feature.
Oh, okay.
And then you can just click to everyone, and then they should be able to see that.
Okay.
Okay, so as Dr. Bajpai is doing that, I just wanted to remind everybody that this is being recorded, and this will be up in our video library at www.cancersupportla.com or .org, I'm so sorry, in a few weeks. And if you would like to see it as soon as possible, you can actually see it on our Facebook page as well. So I'll just give you a few more moments for that.
I just put in my website.
Yes.
And you can send me comments through that in the contact me section. That's the easiest way to get a hold of me.
Perfect. Alrighty. Well, thank you so much again, Dr.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, everybody. Stay well.
Yeah, we appreciate everything. And thank you to everybody attending.